All right, let's talk macros today. So this video will be all about what macros are, how to calculate them, pros and cons, and then an example using an app. I'm going to use MyFitnessPal, showing you kind of the key points on how you should be using it. So before we get started, a little overview of what each section will be about. And then if you need to reference this back, there'll be timestamps in the YouTube comment section in the description about the different categories. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. To begin, what are macros? Just a brief overview about them. How to use macros for your goals, whether it's weight loss, weight gain. There's different ways of how you want to be structuring them, so we'll get into that. Which macros are the most important? And then we'll get into the benefits of calorie counting your macros, the negatives of calorie counting, and then we will get into the best way to structure your macros. After that, how to calculate your calories correctly. So there's a few key points that you want to make sure that you implement when you start calorie counting to make sure you do it accurately. And then we'll finish up, like I just said, we're going to use an example using MyFitnessPal of how to input numbers, some of the key points to make your tracking easier. So let's get going. All right, to start, let's just talk about what are macros. So macros stand for macronutrients. In your food, there's 3 different types of macronutrients. They are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Your proteins and your fats are essential, which means your body needs them to survive. Carbohydrates are a non-essential, so you don't need them in your diet, but there are definitely advantages for having them. So when you have your macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, they each have a different amount of calories for a single gram of them. So 1 gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. The same thing with carbohydrates. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. With fats, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, so more than double. So when you get into calorie counting, you're going to realize that when you add fats in there, it's not going to seem like you have a lot of them, but the calories are high because of that reason. 1 gram is more than double that of proteins and carbs. So when you take all these, your proteins, your fats, and your carbs, you add them up, that's going to be your total calories for the day. And with that is going to manipulate whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight with your total calorie intake. So that's a brief overview about what macros are. And now let's get into how to use this for your goal. Whether your goal is weight loss or weight gain, the first thing you need to know when you go into your calorie counting is what your maintenance calories are. So what that means is you want to know the amount of calories you consume each day that will keep your weight the exact same. That is your calorie maintenance. So once you have that, now you can get into your goal. So when your goal is weight loss, also known as fat loss, because that's actually what you want to be in a calorie deficit. That means you're bringing in less calories than what your body wants to maintain its weight. So if you find your calorie maintenance at, let's say, for example, 2,500 calories. If you want to lose weight, you need to be eating less than that. So let's say you ate 2,000 calories per day. You bring in 2,000, your body wants 2,500. There's a gap of 500 calories there that your body will use from existing muscle or fat, get rid of it so it can maintain its energy. That gap will create your deficit, and that's what will make the scale go down. Now, the same thing, but on the other side, if your goal is weight gain and you have a maintenance of 2,500, let's say you eat 3,000, that would put you in a calorie surplus. That extra 500 calories that you're eating each day will be either stored as fat or muscle. Now, so if you are trying to lose weight right now, but you have been gaining weight for the past, whatever amount of time, 6 months, year, multiple years, that means you've been eating in a calorie surplus. You've been eating more calories than what your body needs, so it's been holding on as body fat. So if your goal is weight loss, always remember calorie deficit. If you're trying to gain weight, always remember calorie surplus. Now let's get into which macros are the most important. So I discussed a portion of this earlier about your proteins and fats being essential. But when it comes to tracking, of the three, the most important one for you to pay attention to is protein. So I'm gonna go back to that example of the 2,500 calorie maintenance and the 2,000 calorie deficit. So when you're at a 2,500, you eat 2,000, that 500 gap will help you lose weight. That will be eliminated either by fat or by muscle. Your goal when you say you want to lose weight is you actually want to lose fat because you don't want to lose your muscle. So the only way to preserve your muscle when you're in a calorie deficit is to keep your protein intake high. So when you keep your protein intake high and eat in a calorie deficit, when you see changes on the scale, that will be a fat loss, which is what you want. You want to preserve that muscle. Now, the same thing will happen if you're trying to gain weight. With that surplus, you want to make sure you're eating high protein because the excess will be stored as muscle instead of fat. So protein is the most important. And then the next two, carbs and fats, that's totally dependent on kind of how you like to eat. Some people prefer to eat more carbs, so they might go on a higher carb. Some people prefer low carb just for energy reasons. So they'll go low carb, higher fat, more clarity, lots of different reasons. So it's important just to try out different combos, be aware of how you feel, and find a good middle ground for what works best for you. But for the macros, the most important one for you to pay attention to is your protein intake. Let's get into the benefits of calorie counting, tracking your macros. The big one is that it allows for a flexible diet, a flexible lifestyle. And this is one of the main reasons why people get into calorie counting. When you have a calorie goal, you get to eat in a way that works best for you. Compared to other diets out there like a keto, intermittent fasting, lots of different things like that, you got to eat a certain way. But when it comes to calorie counting, you get to build your own plan and it allows for a flexible lifestyle. So it's awesome because you can still have the foods you enjoy as long as they fit your macros, fit your calories. If you're going to go out to a dinner with friends, you don't have to worry about having to know, like, for example, if you're on keto, I've had this happen with friends where they can't go to a specific restaurant because there's nothing that's keto friendly. That's the great thing about calorie counting is you can go anywhere and eat it because you can make it fit. So for that example, you're going out with friends and let's say it's an Italian dinner and you want to have spaghetti and a glass of wine with your friends. You can do that. You just have to be smart about your calories during the day. So maybe you eat lower calorie during the day, focus on your proteins, your vegetables, so you have a big calorie gap that you can still get at night. Maybe you leave yourself with 1,400 calories to enjoy yourself. You still fit in your calories and you can still see progress. The second thing is you can be as accurate as you want with calorie counting. You can weigh all your food and be very precise to make sure that what you know what you're putting in your body and that the results will reflect that. The third one is a lot of people like calorie counting because it's almost like a game and it's a puzzle and it's math because you got to put a lot of different factors together and build the thing that works best for you. So people like the idea of being able to manipulate different things to make it work for their lifestyle. With that, I explained this with the carbs and fats, is that you don't have to eat a certain way. If you feel better with high carbs or high fat, low fat, whatever, you can do that. There's no strict rules for calorie counting. The main thing is you just got to hit your daily target. So those are the advantages of calorie counting. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are some negatives to calorie counting. And the first one is that it is a hard skill to learn, and sometimes people get frustrated with it at first. It takes some time because this is a new skill you're learning. It takes time to learn how to use the app, how to input your food, how to weigh everything. So you can't get frustrated at first. Just know that with time, this gets easier and easier. The second negative is that you can become obsessed with it. I've seen this before in different Facebook groups I've been in where someone will leave a comment saying, hey, I have 89 calories left for the day and I need 8 grams of protein, 21 carbs, 3 grams of fat, something like that. And they just want to hit it exactly right every single day. And that's when it starts to become obsessive versus making it a flexible lifestyle. So make sure not to take it too seriously. You want to hit your goal, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later of some tricks to where you won't become so obsessed with hitting your numbers directly each day. The third one is your lack of micronutrients. So when you're hitting a total calorie, sometimes people focus so much on that calorie goal and that protein goal that they forget about the simple things like the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. And a lot of those come from fruits and vegetables. People think that because they're counting calories, they can basically eat the things that they like as long as they hit their calorie goal, which is true. There's been studies done there's a professor at some college who ate nothing but junk food like Twinkies and Oreos for like 40 days, and he lost weight because he stayed in a calorie deficit. The problem was you're not going to feel very good doing that. So you want to hit your calorie goal, but you also want to make sure you're filling your body up with fruits and vegetables and good proteins and things like that that are going to make you feel good. And then use a little bit of those calories for things that you enjoy. The last negative is that calorie counting, macro tracking is hard to do forever. It does take time, and a lot of times people get burnt out on it. So it's a great skill to learn at first, but eventually you want to hopefully transition to more of intuitive eating where you can just look at something, look at a piece of chicken breast and kind of eyeball how many calories it is. And that is my goal that I teach my clients, that I hope for you to eventually learn these traits where you don't need it and you can get a pretty good guess on what a meal is without having to weigh and track everything. The best way to structure, got another cat here. So the best way to structure your macros that I found for long-term success and for sustainability is using ranges to start. So when you get your calorie goal, instead of having a specific number, let's say you were going for 1,750, I would say use a range, maybe 1,700 to 1,800. So you give yourself this 100 calorie cushion. So as long as you get in that, you know you hit your goal for the day. So like that example that I said with that person on Facebook saying they need this exact amount of calories and these proteins, carbs, and fats, just shoot for a range. If you hit it and you're in it, awesome. Whether it's 1,701 or 1,799, you're in your calorie goal for the day, and that's gonna be a win. So you can do that as well with all your macros if you're gonna track all three. Set a range. So if you got a protein goal of 130 grams, don't try to hit that exactly. Give yourself some wiggle room, 125 to 135, maybe a 5 to 15 gram difference on each side. And that's gonna be more sustainable in the long run. The second thing, when you begin tracking, the only thing that I would recommend doing is focus on hitting your calories and your protein. Just focus on those two. Don't worry about hitting a specific goal for your carbs and fats because they're not going to affect your weight loss and making sure it's muscle that's maintained and fat is lost. So you can play around with those numbers if you want, but the main things you should focus on when you first start calorie counting are hitting your calories and your protein. 3 things that you're going to need to make sure that you're tracking your macros correctly. The first one, the most important one, is you're going to need a food scale. They're cheap. They're on Amazon, Target, Walmart, wherever. $10 to $15. Going to have a food scale. And make sure that it has, you're going to be hard to see this, but it says units there where you can change the units from grams to ounces, things like that. Because weighing your food is very important, especially at first, to make sure your numbers are accurate. The second thing is when you're reading labels, make sure that you are measuring out what the total grams or ounces are for that item of food. So for example, say you want a bag of, or some chips from a bag, and you read the back of it and it says serving size 12 chips, and then it says parentheses 100 grams. You don't want to track 12 chips and eat those. You actually want to use your scale, maybe grab a bowl, put it on there, and then put 100 grams worth of chips in there. I made a post on my Instagram about a year ago with some tortilla chips that I got from Trader Joe's. And this, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the calories were almost double when I weighed it by the serving size versus counting the number of chips that it said. So don't do it by the amount that it says. Always use the exact grams or ounces or whatever the unit of measurement is. And the last thing is you can't forget to track the small things, like your oils. If you're going to be cooking with oil, you got to make sure you put that into your app. If you have kids and they're eating something and you grab a bite, you got to make sure to add those little things into your app. Or at work, if there's a piece of candy, a couple M&Ms, and you eat them, like all those little things add up. So you can't just add your meals in there. You got to put everything you put in your mouth, including liquids, has to be tracked to make sure it's accurate. Now to finish up, we're going to use MyFitnessPal, and I'm going to show you the most important things that you need to know on this app. So when you open up the app, if you click on the bottom right where it says more, this is where you can enter your numbers. So on this screen, click on goals right in the middle. And when you're here, this is where you can enter all your information. So you can put your starting weight, current weight, goal, weekly goal, and your activity level. So this is more so you can have a little guideline and you can kind of see a graph. But the most important thing is the second section down where it says nutrition goals, calorie, carbs, protein, and fat goals. So hit that. And then this is where you can enter your total calories that you want to hit. So if you hit on calories, you can go in here and you can adjust it. So let's say we're going to be eating 2,000 calories, since that's what we've been talking about in the video. We're going to put that there. And then you're going to go down to protein because that's the only thing we're going to be tracking. And then you're going to go on what your specific numbers are. So you can't type it in exactly. You have to go by percentages. So let's say you want to be doing about 125. Oh, that's actually perfect. So I moved it down to 25%, and now my protein is 125 grams. Your total for the day has to equal 100%, so I would need to adjust either my carbs or fat. But since I'm just tracking calories and protein, doesn't really matter. Just got to get to 100%, hit the check mark, and I'm good. All right, I'm going to get out of this and go back to the main screen. And now let's enter a food. So if you click on the bottom left where it says home, we're going to go to your home screen. And then at the top, it says calories remaining. Now it has our 2,000 in there, minus food because we haven't had any food, plus exercise. So quick note on here, never enter anything for exercise. When you get a specific number for your calories, that includes your exercise. So ignore that. Don't put anything in here. So to input a food, where it says calories remaining, click anywhere in that section, and it'll bring you to your daily food log there. So let's start with something for breakfast. So if you go to breakfast and click add food, what's going to show you here is your history. So everything that you've had in here that you've already entered. So that's where I was saying that the more experience you get, the easier this is because you're going to have food in there. So there's 3 ways you can enter food. You can click something from your history. So if I was to click on peanut butter, I can click on peanut butter. And then at the top right, I can hit check, and that will put my food in there. So now I got creamy peanut butter. You go back to add food. I can enter something. So say I didn't have it in here and I wanted to search for it, where it says search for a food on the left side here. I can click on that and I can type it in. So let's just say you wanted, I don't know, Frosted Flakes. I'm going to search for that, and there it is. So first one down, it's got a little check marks, which means I'm pretty sure that means it's more accurate or it's verified. I don't know exactly, but I'm going to click on that. And now when you're here, this is really important. You can adjust your serving sizes and your number of servings. So you can either weigh it by cups or you can click it and you can change it here. So fluid ounces, tablespoons. So for this one, it would probably be easier just to do 1 cup. So I'm going to change it to 1 cup. And then let's say I filled my bowl up and measured out 2 cups. All right, so 293 calories, 2.7 grams of fat, and I'm going to add that with the check mark at the top right, and we're good. The third way to add food, go back to add food again, is on the right side now, you see a little barcode scanner. You can click on that, and if you had a food item, I should have grabbed something here, you can put it in there, and it's going to track your food. So if you scan something, it would pop up like this, and then you can adjust the serving sizes. So like say this was strawberry jam, you can click on serving size. Say you didn't do a tablespoon, you did 1 cup, 1 teaspoon. You can adjust it however you want, and the calories will adjust for you there. So that is how you add food and how you adjust for grams, ounces, whatever you want. And now for the overall day, if you want to see where you're at, you see it at the top of how many calories you have remaining, but you can click on that and that'll actually give you your overview for your carbs, fats, and proteins. So my breakfast right there, let's see how many calories it was. So 500 calories, and it was a makeup of 84 carbs, 16 grams of fat, 9 grams of protein. So I kind of know for the day that I have 500 calories in, kind of low on protein with only 9 grams. But going forward, I would shoot for higher protein. So now you go to lunch, dinner, you can add your snacks in there. And like I said, ignore exercise. So those are the main things you need to know for MyFitnessPal. All right, that wraps up the video of what are macros, benefits, negatives, most important things you should be doing, how to use MyFitnessPal. Now you might be asking, so how many calories should I eat? How much protein should I be consuming? So there's a lot of different ways you can do this now. There are multiple online calculators that you can do, and you can calculate your calories and protein. As I said earlier in the video, one of the most important things is to find your calorie maintenance. So when you use these calculators, it's just an equation, which, it's somewhat accurate, but it's not exactly accurate for your body. So if you want to do it the best possible way for your body, you would actually want to start tracking just your normal eating routines for 1 to 2 weeks, get your calories, and during that period, you want to try to maintain your weight. Because if you can maintain it, then you're going to know what your calorie maintenance is. Then from there, you can either cut them down or go up depending on your goal. If you want just a simple math equation to get started right away, if you're trying to lose weight, you can multiply your weight by 10 to 12. That usually will get you in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to gain weight, you can multiply your body weight by 16 to 20. As for protein, studies show that you can maintain and build muscle at around 0.6 grams per pound of body weight. So an easy example, if you weighed 100 pounds, 0.6 would be 60, about 60%. So you'd want at least 60 grams of protein. I like to tell my clients to go a little bit higher, around 0.8 grams per pound of body weight to 1 gram per pound of body weight. But it totally is dependent about how much body fat you have, a lot of different factors. So use those calculators, contact me. I'll be more than happy to help you out, and good luck.